All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jensen on Six Pack here again, and today want to talk to you guys about Josh Norman, why I believe he's a good signing for the Buffalo Bills. Talk about some of the positives. Also, going to talk about a little bit of negatives about Josh Norman, not about his personality and stuff like that, but just how he affects pretty much the death, especially now. We're in free agency now. We have guys like Levi Wallace and Kevin Johnson going into free agency, or at least Kevin Johnson going into free agency. How will affect those two? So. Um, Josh Norman, the positives, man, he brings that leadership. He brings the leadership. He brings swagger into the locker room immediately. I mean, Josh Norman at one point is one of the best corners in all the pro football. Of course, he is in the decline. He's going to be 33. Not when he lands, but in December he's going to be 33 years of age. So he's one of the older corners in the league. So he brings that locker room presence. He brings that leadership. Doesn't have any off the field issues at all. Again, you're talking about a guy that was a top tier cornerback, was the best cornerback in football at one point. Then was a top 10 corner, top 15, always in that area ever since he's been at Washington. He is going to be playing against number two guys. Normally, again, the last 3 years that he's been in Washington. Last 3, 4 seasons he's been in Washington, he's played as that number one guy. And now, of course, he hasn't been bad there, but he hasn't been elite there. He's not what he used to be. So when he does come here, we all know Trey White. He's going to be playing the number one position. Number two is probably going to be Josh Norman. There's a possibility that he also plays a slot. We start to see a lot of older corners. They're either playing safety or they're playing in the slot position. So it could be a possibility that Josh Norman could play the slot position. I don't think he's going to play it. He's going to play outside because he's not as fast and not as quick. Even at the age of 33, he's never been the fastest cornerback in the world. So I think that he can play that outside position there as well. He's also one of the more physical corners when it comes to jamming, when it comes to press coverage. Also has some really good back pedal, good footwork especially when he turns his hips. He's actually one of the best in the league when it comes to doing that. Doesn't really have the ball hawking skills like he used to have, but as far as just jamming, physical presence, playing some really good depth of zone coverage, he's a really good corner. So I think that he could be a solid number two corner there. Now, is he going to pull that Vontae Davis mold? Because remember, Vontae Davis was at one point the best corner in all of football. He came here and then he left literally in the middle of a game. Is it going to be Vontae Davis? Not too sure he's going to be Vontae Davis, but Josh Norman, as far as just that leadership presence, stuff like that, he is going to be that guy for you. As far as Levi Wallace and Kevin Johnson goes, Levi Wallace, again, he's going to be here. They can cut him off if they want, or he could be a free agent, but they can keep him here for another year. So Levi Wallace was that number two guy. He was actually sharing a little bit with Kevin Johnson, had injury issues and stuff like that. But overall wise, Levi Wallace, I believe, is going to be battling Josh Norman. I don't think the job is handed out to Josh Norman, but if Josh Norman wins out the job, and then Levi Wallace, he just adds some depth there because this is a guy with 2 years of experience playing at the number two cornerback position. So he's a guy that brings that experience to your football team. Kevin Johnson goes. I think that this kind of solidifies that he's not going to be back. Kevin Johnson was a guy that played at the outside cornerback position. He's a guy that played, I thought, well. Again, he's a guy that they brought in a 1 year deal. I thought he played well, especially for what his contract was worth. So I think that he's going to be gone. I think they're going to let him go. So I think Josh Norman and Levi Wallace, maybe they draft another cornerback in the draft, maybe in the third, fourth round. They get a cornerback who they really like. They can use him as a guy that could maybe play in the nickel back, but can transition into a cornerback position. Again, you got guys like Levi Wallace, Josh Norman, and Tre'Davious White now teaching that young man. So that could be a possibility as well that they could be planning out for. But not really surprised by this. Josh Norman, we all know he is that guy that brings that, he's that locker room presence. He is that leader. So now that you're right, Kyle Williams, he's gone. Of course, he's been gone now for the past couple of seasons. And then Lorenzo Alexander, he's also gone. So you need another locker room presence. Frank Gore, we don't know if he's going to be back. So, again, just getting in that locker room presence, getting that leadership, that experienced guy in your locker room to teach the young guys, pretty much how the process works. I think that's very, very critical for why the Buffalo Bills have been so successful lately. And not a shocker here. Also, Josh Norman, he played under Sean McDermott's defense, right? This is a guy that's been under Sean McDermott for the last for 2 years that until Sean McDermott left for the Buffalo Bills. But Josh Norman knows Sean McDermott. He actually compared Sean McDermott to Ron Rivera, so he's a coach that he's familiar with, that he's comfortable with. Overall. So I think that both sides get a win-win. Josh Norman's not anything too expensive. It's only a 6-year deal. But I think that this is a win-win for both sides. You're getting a solid guy that can play at the outside cornerback position. And, the Buffalo Bills are getting a guy that could be a great locker room presence to their locker room and could be that mentor towards the young guys that are trying to play that are trying to play at the nickelback position or trying to play at the outside cornerback position. So overall wise, like the signing, and we'll see what the Buffalo Bills can go from here. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. This is Gen 716. I'll catch you guys later. Go Bills. Peace.